Hong Kong in 1857, an exotic world of crinolines and top hats, dark opium dens, and stately British homes, haughty Mandarin officials and British fleets of war, Chinese triads, Taiping rebels, foreign traders, fortunes to be made and lost. Captain Elliot had seized Hong Kong Island for the British in 1841, and 16 years later the colony had become, against all odds, a bustling town. Spread along the northern shore of the island, its beautiful deep-water harbor, crowded with ships of all nations, ships of war lined with the tiers of cannon, heavily laden rice barges from Siam, butterfly-winged Chinese junks, sleek clipper ships, and, of course, opium ships. Yes, fortunes could be made, but under the administration of Sir John Bowring, 4th Governor of Hong Kong, war had broken out, and pirate fleets swarmed the bays and inlets of southern China, laying in wait for unprotected trading vessels. In addition to honest Chinese from the mainland, who came to build roads and buildings and become servants and compradors and shop owners, there were also ruffians, bandits, and Chinese of the lowest order flocking to Hong Kong to work, to steal, or to kill. A foreign head was worth 500 silver dollars, if delivered across the harbor to the vicious governor of Guangzhou, that is, Canton. Everyone in Hong Kong was advised to carry a pistol with them whenever venturing out at night, and Chinese were ordered to carry lanterns and passes if out after dark. It was not unusual to find a hapless sailor floating in the harbor, or a resident of the prestigious Hong Kong Club recounting a close call with Chinese ruffians who tried to rob him. The feelings of the British and the Chinese might best be described as, well, not the best of friends. In an English newspaper in 1857 Hong Kong, "There is a day of reckoning coming for you, John Chinaman, and but little will be found on the credit side of your account." And on a Chinese placard posted in Hong Kong in 1857, "These English barbarians, these kindred of dogs and boars, unmannerly, devoid of all knowledge of propriety and human intercourse, wolves and jackals in their greed, lustful, incestuous, bestial, wandering hither and thither, reckless and regardless of all rights, human and divine, like flocks of carrion crows, to the carcass." Despite all of this, life went on. The elites of Hong Kong gave elaborate dinner parties served by Chinese who escaped the horrors of the Civil War between the Manchus and the Taipings raging on the mainland. There were diversions, cricket and billiards and taverns, and of course the Hong Kong Club. And on the birthday of Her Majesty Queen Victoria, the harbor rang out with the cannon salutes of all the foreign ships. But the British colony would experience something unique. On the morning of 15 January 1857, as usual, most of the 1,000 or so foreigners in Hong Kong took their bread from the Yi Sing Bakery in Spring Gardens, now part of Wan Chai. However, this was not to be a normal day in the lives of either the foreigners or of the Chinese, because Hong Kong was about to become the only settled community in history to experience a mass poisoning. This was no "let's all drink poison Kool-Aid" as in Jonestown. This was a diabolical plan to rid Hong Kong and southern China of the hated long-nosed foreign devils from across the Western Ocean in one fell swoop. Because on that morning, Chinese bakers at a bakery whose translated name meant prosperous and abundant had placed 10 pounds of arsenic in the bread. A very ill Governor Bowring managed to write to London. "Incendiarism was the only subject of our apprehension till this morning, when a diabolical attempt was made to poison the foreign community by putting arsenic in the bread supplied by the Yi Sing Bakery and largely used in the town. That act resulted in an incredibly ill and panicked foreign population of many nationalities, and cries of 'poison loaves' and 'don't eat the bread' rang across the town. Doctors, incredibly sick themselves, did their best to tend to others. The baker, Chung Ah Lum, and his family had gone to Macau on a steamer and were apprehended before going on shore. And thus began the sensational 5-day trial. Certainly it looked as if the baker was attempting to escape, but on closer examination during the trial, it was revealed that no one had attempted to stop him from leaving the steamer when it was off Macau. And furthermore, it was almost Chinese New Year, and many Chinese were heading back to their homes for the celebrations. And as the Mandarin officials were placing great pressure on Chinese in Hong Kong to immediately stop working with or for the British and other barbarians. There was nothing suspicious in the actions of the baker, who incidentally claimed he had given bread to his own family, and realizing they were sick, suspected something was wrong with the bread, and hence was planning on returning to Hong Kong immediately, which is why he had not gone into Macau. Furthermore, his baking managers had disappeared, making it even more likely that he was the victim of a well-planned frame-up. Or was he? The baker had been in Hong Kong for years, and his advertisements appeared regularly in Hong Kong newspapers, and he had served the community well. But now, with tensions running high over so many issues, many in the community demanded he and his bakers be strung up from lampposts, and that if they were not punished, it would encourage other celestial devils to do much the same. The governor, Sir John Bowring, insisted that if the bakers were hanged without a trial, it would cause an indelible stain to British honor. Hundreds of foreign residents fell ill. Others were fortunate to have been warned in time, or to have eaten leftover bread from the day before. It is possible that one or two died directly from the poisoning, and Lady Bowring herself never completely recovered. But the supreme irony was that the colony was saved precisely because the poisoners had used too much arsenic. It therefore acted as an emetic, a cathartic, and caused people to vomit it up. Had the poisoners used less, it might well have seeped into the residents gradually and circulated inside their systems, thereby causing countless deaths. After the most sensational trial in Hong Kong history up to that date, the verdict was finally rendered. 5 Englishmen said not proven. That is, there was no direct link between the baker and the arsenic. Therefore they, no doubt reluctantly, rendered their verdict as not guilty. 1 Scotsman said guilty, and so by a vote of 5 to 1, the baker and his crew were acquitted. Chung Ah-Lum was deported to Macau and told not to return to Hong Kong for at least 5 years. It is doubtful that he ever did, but much to the dismay of the housewives of the period, bakers now had to employ an all-European staff, and the price of bread doubled. As for the baker Chung Ah-Lum, he lived a long life and moved to Saigon, where he was much respected by one and all, and had many wives and many sons. A foreigner who lived in Hong Kong at the time of the poisoning wrote a long poem about the event. The beginning is, "I do remember me a wondrous tale, which I have heard my father's father tell, of a great poisoning effort made to slay my ancestors and all upon this isle who were not of celestial origin, and oftentimes my youthful blood would thrill at such conception of a human heart." Or as Lewis Carroll wrote in Through the Looking Glass in The Walrus and the Carpenter, "A loaf of bread," the walrus said, "is what we chiefly need." I lived in Hong Kong for 17 years, and when I last interviewed a Chinese baker there who supplies bread to foreigners, I suggested to him this could never happen now. He sighed, looked around, lowered his voice, and said that that was exactly what he feared. Everything had been modernized and mechanized, and on the night shift it would take just one disgruntled baker to push a button. The poisoning case has always fascinated me, and it serves as the main plot of my musical Fragrant Harbor, and as one of the plots in my novel set in Hong Kong in 1857, Hangman's Point. The novel's main character, Andrew Adams, a ne'er-do-well American seaman, gambler, and part-time smuggler, manages the Beehive Tavern in the raucous Chinese section of Hong Kong. To avoid a long prison term, he will enter southern China in search of pirates who beheaded 11 foreigners. To escape a hanging, he will attempt a daring prison escape and disguise himself as a Chinese. To rescue the woman he loves, he will risk everything, and his fate will interact with that of some embittered Chinese, the bakers who poisoned the bread.